Hello and welcome to BRAIDAR, the Business of Beauty. My name is Jaden Paru and you are listening to our 16th episode. Yeah, I believe we're on episode 16 now, which is really crazy. Like, can you believe that just in October we started this journey of exploring what different fashion and beauty brands can do in terms of innovation, in terms of customer acquisition, retention, and just really engaging with Gen Z audiences, and also really analyzing and deconstructing those pillars of what I think are like the the teenage experience or the youth experience today, like aesthetics, like algorithmic feeds, like YouTube, Pinterest, TikTok, just really kind of stepping back and looking at it from both sides, like the people who are engineering the the content and the people who are consuming, and then the brands that want to leverage that. It's like a really interesting multi-directional relationship. So yeah, we've talked about so many things. We've talked about dress up games, like those online flash games, the Barbie website, Girls Go Games, all of those like pillars of early 2000s internet usage and how that factors into the kind of experience of gaming that different groups have, especially like young kids, young girls who are often like otherwise othered from the like mainstream gaming experience. It was nice to kind of dive into what those dress up games meant to us at the time. And yeah, we've covered way more than that. Like I'm not even gonna get into the Bratz, Monster High episodes and all the kind of like parallels in that. But yeah, today is really exciting because I know you guys remember last week that I told you the BRAIDAR website will be launching on Friday. So that's yesterday. So I'm really happy to announce that www.braidar.com is live, ready for bookings, functioning. It's everything's up. It's really, really great to say that our second MVP is ready for you guys to join and to book. So yeah, I'm really happy to announce that to you guys. And you can check that out like whenever you want. There's kind of a description on the website, kind of like a write up, just explaining the whole ethos behind Braidar, which I talked about in like, I think 4 episodes. I've talked about in 4 different episodes on this show. But for those of you who don't know, Braidar, the Business of Beauty, is like a spin off of a startup that I'm kind of working on. And while the radio show focuses on like analyzing marketing strategies and critiquing sort of like innovation strategies and looking at different consumer trends and insights, the actual startup is focused on like a particular need or function. And that is allowing black girls who study in Scottish universities, especially like predominantly white institutions, to get access to braiders nearby, and so they can really like easily get braids done while studying. So, if you want to know more about that, you're gonna have to head to the website because if I start talking about it, I will, really get into it. But it's definitely something that I'm very passionate about. It's definitely something that I think has a big impact on like long term university strategies and things like inclusion, equity, diversity, and really creating that infrastructure and that landing pad for the students that you're recruiting and the diversity that you really want to champion in any institution, in any kind of space, is important to make sure that when people get here, they have those structural like facilities in place already that they can access and that will really help them to feel more at home in different environments. So yeah. And I guess I could kind of talk about maybe the overlap between the show and the company Braidar. And in doing so, I'm also going to talk about the dream, I suppose, like the long term vision for Braidar as a website or as an app and just as a company in general. So, all the topics I've talked about on the Braidar show, when I talked about like virtual worlds and online avatars, when I talked about dress up games and the whole like the way that allows young people to kind of explore their fashion sense and their creativity and also like get to know what it is they want from like their aspirational look or their aspirational life, or even like their sense of embodied identity. All the things I talked about in terms of brand activations and in-person events, and how that really helps to tie together and fuse that community that's building around your brand. All the things I talked about when I talked about like the actual branding of your startup and where to get ideas for that, and how to make sure it really maps onto who your target audience is and how they speak, what they're interested in, what they watch, like the aesthetics that they kind of sort of align themselves with. All the things I mentioned on the show are all things that I'm implementing and will implement with BRAIDAR. So it just so happens that all these interests that I have in terms of really cool topics you can talk about from different angles, in terms of like you can put a management spin on it, you could put a psychology spin on it, you could put like marketing spin, you could put organizational studies kind of twists on these topics. I happen to like them just as things to explore and to research and investigate, but they also happen to be things that really are applicable to my own startup, and so that's why it's all the more exciting to share them on this show and to talk about them with you guys, because as I'm talking about it, I can really see how I can put it into practice, all the things that I'm saying and all the like suggestions that I give for different brands, and all the sort of hypothetical case studies, how I can adapt that for my own business idea. So yeah, that is something very interesting about the show, and that's something that I really hope to be able to show you, like with you going on the site, accessing it on your own, even without me giving an explanation. I hope that that's something that comes across in the design of the website, in the user interface, in just the connotations of the different design elements, color schemes, all those little details. I really hope that you're sort of reminded of these different topics I've touched on. And hopefully as I progress in terms of like what I can put on the website, because for those of you who don't know, for now Braidar's just me on the team. So I did all the like web design, I've kind of set up the back end on like the hosting platform, I've done the marketing, the sort of strategy, customer acquisition strategy, the like pitching for different funding competitions, and just going to different events and networking. That's all kind of been me. Not kind of, it has been me. So the pace at which BRAIDAR can evolve according to my like, really innovative, really creative, really like just something unique, something different. The pace that it can evolve to match that vision is proportional to the like skills I develop using like this particular platform that we're hosting on. So yeah, not to say that that's something that can't be overcome, but it's something that means I have to put a lot of time into like the kind of learning curve of the program and the website, and then think about how to implement it. So that's part of the reason why it's kind of an incremental process. So I really hope with this version you can see it as almost like the seed stage, or the level 1 sort of evolution of this website. If you think about it, like even in terms of like something like Pokemon, if you think about it as something that will grow into its final form and that will like evolve into the form that has like all the capabilities kind of maxed out, and that's really like a realization of all its potential. This is kind of like something that foreshadows and gives a little taster of what that can be. So yeah, I think for the future, although BRAIDAR is really focusing on braids for now, and BRAIDAR, as I said in like last week's episode and other episodes, and which you see on the website, it's a concierge service. So instead of like if you think about personal shoppers, right? You go to them with a request like, oh, I want these loafers, I want this bag, I want this particular like blouse that was in, I don't know, this particular show 20 years ago and hasn't been seen like on sale or seen in the wild since. I want this very particular, very, from the customer's point, inaccessible thing. And the personal shopper just takes your request and goes like, right, I will literally scour the earth. I will literally go through all my contacts. I'll comb through my network. I'll ask around the different boutiques and the different design, like different houses that I'm in contact with, and I will track down that very thing that you want. It's a very bespoke, very like personalized interaction. And it's interesting how a lot of personal shoppers business has moved online. So they're kind of digitizing that process, but the actual like matching and sourcing and, delivering and shipping that item that you want and getting it from, in your head, you have the idea or the vision of you with that bag and going on holiday with it or to an event or whatever context in which you want to use it. They are the bridge between that vision and the reality of holding that bag in your hand and actually owning that, that rare sort of piece, or owning that really like a piece of history. If you think about the example of something that was only shown once and like a limited production run, for example. So BRAIDAR kind of operates at the moment in the same way. So customers can submit their request of exactly the style that they want, the length, the size of the braids, the type of style. It doesn't have to be braids. It could be twists. It could be passion twists. It could be a lock retwist. It could be all these kind of things. And you can submit reference photos. You can link reference videos on like TikTok, Pinterest, YouTube. You can also link your Pinterest board. It can kind of go as specific and as sort of imaginative as you want. You tell us when you want it, you tell us where you're based, and we basically take those details and use it to find the braider that can do that style for you and who is nearby to you. So gone are the days when you have to like go on a bus for 2 hours just to do your braids, and then you're there and you're not quite loving how the style is coming out. It's not actually like what you asked for, but obviously in that situation you spent so much time and so much effort just finding someone who can do something that you're not really in a position to say, oh, this is actually not what I want, or this is just, you're not able to kind of get me that standard that I wanted. Which isn't to say you're not grateful, but if you're paying something, especially like upwards of £50, you do want it to come out how you want. And so, yeah, BRAIDAR is just that kind of service for you. It's bringing that element of a hyper personalized and hyper sort of focused on what you want, rather than you always having to conform to restrictions that are placed on you for whatever reason, be it like geographical reasons, be it just like availability reasons, be it like the lack of knowledge of like other stylists in different areas. BRAIDAR's really trying to flip the script on that and be like, hey, we are, we're a customer base who's as deserving of personal luxury, like enjoyable experience in terms of like shopping and beauty as any other customer base. And at the moment, before BRAIDAR, I don't think we really had that many outlets for that or options for that, or like services that offered that. So that's what I really want to do in the short term. And from the web design and the backgrounds and the colors, you can kind of see that I'm really trying to evoke that sense of a boutique, of a very sort of almost like a department store or some kind of like members club, and using the backgrounds and the design to evoke a physical sense of that. So like when you're on the site, you feel like you're in that some kind of personal dressing room or personal hairdressing like studio. You feel like you're in that department store where you expect that level of service in terms of high quality, sort of attentive, really like going above and beyond, that kind of level of service. So I really want people to get a sense of that through the design. And in the future, I really want to embed the actual interface in that vision of like a department store, in that vision of like being physically immersed in a virtual space. So So you can kind of see how I'm drawing on those ideas of like the dress up games and the virtual world, because one thing I really want to incorporate is avatars in the BRAIDAR sort of interface. And I guess in the broadest sense, if you can think of those dress up games where you've got like the clothes are on one side of the screen, right? Like almost like a, sometimes it's a closet, but often it's like a box with the clothes side sort of like there, and the avatar's on the other side, and the background is often like maybe the room of the character, or it's some kind of like, you know, studio or behind the scenes sort of space where you can really contextualize the actions that you're doing. So if you're dressing up a character, the background allows you to contextualize it in the sense of like, are they in their dorm? Are they in their bedroom at home? Are they behind the scenes in a like a what's it called? Fashion show. Yeah, that's the word. Are they behind the scenes like about to go on the catwalk? Like, what is the context in which you're dressing up this character? And that informs, you know, the clothes that you end up picking for them. That informs like the story that you craft around that action, which is like playing a dress up game, right? I've talked about this in depth in the dress up game episodes. I won't really get into like the materiality of it or the like um the sort of how you're engaging with it in this sort of really deep um behavioral level. But I will say that I really want to, in the future, have Braidar's interface map onto those, you know, those behavioral things, onto those actual like layout designs, in that you've got your avatar that you can customize, and that you can, you know, for example, you can select the hair, the different hairstyles, and those hairstyles that you select for your avatar are actually things that are bookable in real life. So the kind of visual representations of some of the styles that you can book in real life for yourself on Braidar. And so you can see like how I'm drawing on way back in, I think, November or October, episode 3 of Braidar, when I talked about this whole trend of digital beauty, which a lot of brands like Prada, like Elf, like so many different beauty brands are, like beauty and fashion brands are looking to the metaverse and to things like even like Roblox to do these kind of physical slash digital, like that's where the word digital comes from, physical slash digital representations of their products that function as pipelines for people to buy their products in real life. So you can buy the product for your avatar, like you can buy a Gucci bag for your Roblox avatar, but you can also buy that bag in real life. And sometimes they do interesting things with like digital exclusives. So for people who just want to like really focus on the avatar as a sort of expression of themselves, but they may not want to actually like buy the product in real life. And then sometimes it's like a tie-in where if you get the digital, it's like a to funnel you to get the thing in real life, or it's to like if you get the thing in real life first, then you get a free digital copy, like with the Build a Bear virtual world, which is called Bearville, which is I think the number one sort of like, if the internet were created for any reason, it's probably because of Bearville. That was like the best website I've ever been on. But yeah, I really want to do something like that where you have an outlet for your creativity on Braidar, not just in terms of like it's a way for you to access your aspirational looks and achieve that aspirational self. Like, you know, 2 episodes ago, I was talking about Pinterest and how people create boards of the life that they want to live and the look that they want to have. Braidar is a way for you to do that, but you can also explore like what that looks like with your avatar as well. So that's something I want to do in the future. And I also want to do something in terms of the actual layout of the website, where like the different functionality areas, like the concierge service, like the feed. For those of you who've been around since the beginning, the feed is something like, if you think about Pinterest, for example, they've got a feed of like different photos, different videos, and you click on it to see like the details or to save it and stuff. With Braidar, you can see a feed of different photos from girls who've done styles with stylists nearby that fit your search descriptions, right? And you can click on those photos to book that exact style with that exact stylist, you know? So it's not a case of like you you know, you're assured that that stylist can do the style and that that stylist is near you. So you don't have to face the disappointment of like, at the moment, if you go on Pinterest or Google, you click on the picture you like, you're like, oh, I would love to have this, but the person is in, I don't know, Cape Town, you know? Like, you can't actually get that exact thing which your imagination is really latched onto and which is really like captured your sort of like sense of anticipation and sense of like, oh, I would love to have this. But with BRAIDAR, you can really get that exact thing. So going back to the interface and the layout, I would really love to have a thing where the different rooms correspond to these different functions, right? Like concierge service, like the feed, like the page where you post your pictures, the page where you book directly with like a stylist that you've used before on BRAIDAR. So it's almost like through your avatar, you are exploring more of the department store, right? And different areas of the boutique that can offer you different things. Because I think, again, with e-commerce becoming more of a standard for offerings in terms of like it's expected for a lot of brands, especially in the direct-to-consumer space, to have an online presence and a way for consumers to access their products online. And especially for Gen Z, like if your target audience happen to be in Gen Z, I think it's important for one, for you to actually have that online e-commerce like capability, but two, I think it's important to be innovative in it, you know, because that's one way that you can stand out from your competition. Like for example, there are some like hair styling booking platforms out there that in in terms of like our strategy, I would consider them our competition, but in terms of execution and in terms of user interface and in terms of like just the way in which you interact with the same core function and the same like job to be done, which is to get a hairstyle, is completely different to BRAIDAR. I really want BRAIDAR to have a sense of the experiential, a sense of like a virtual world, a sense of you feeling affinity for like just the environment in which you can buy stuff. Because I think that's something that a lot of in-person physical stores are getting right at the moment nowadays. So I talked about in that episode about in-person brand activations. Like you can see the if you know what this thing called Coachtopia, which is basically Coach's like Gen Z focused circular fashion sort of line or brand, and they're really good at pop-ups. They're really good at things that engage that community that's really into like reselling, thrifting, buying secondhand Coach stuff. So like legacy brands and like established brands are they are rethinking and innovating how they use physical spaces, not just for like straight up retail, but for like community experiences, for things that are memories that you can make that the brand is sort of embedded into in them being the facilitators and the hosts of those like activities and events. So that's something I want to do on our website and in real life as well. But that's in the that's in the strategy like for customer acquisition and especially for the rest of this year. But I'm not going to go into that because that is a very, very long Word document. I'm just going to focus on the vision aspect of like BRAIDAR's strategy. So yeah, that's something I really want to do. And that's something that I think could be really, really cool. Because as I talked about in the dress up game episode, we're already seeing people like doing this in a DIY fashion, right? So if you ever seen the game Everskies, it's like a dress up game that's really reliant on its own community and user base to generate the like how in dress up games you have a hair like one thing that you drag, which is one hairstyle, like a hair piece or like a trouser piece or like the shoe piece. Like each thing is one item. Everskies is really dependent on its user base to like design, draw, upload, sell those items within their own like in-game economy almost. So it's a case where user-generated content is fueling the growth and the sort of value that people can get out of something like Everskies, right? Because people can really create their own looks. They can create their own, like even the base avatars, they can customize all that. They can make it look like themselves. They can make it look like a version of themselves, like maybe, that whole idea of like the aspirational self, when we talked about the Bratz dolls and their impact on young children, when we talked about embodied identity, when we talked about aesthetics, like dress up games, virtual worlds, like mobile gaming, all these things, it all ties into the sense of being able to express yourself in a different medium, especially if in real life you're not able to or you don't have access to things that will allow you to express yourself in that way. Because on Everskies, you can design like, I don't know, 30-inch burgundy, like loose wavy wigs, for your avatar to wear that in real life you might not necessarily have. But on Everskies, it allows you to explore and mix and match and experiment with different looks with that hairstyle. So perhaps maybe that's your dream wig to get one day. You can kind of already like anticipate and prepare for the kind of outfits that you want to wear with that hair, or the kind of places like backgrounds that you'd want to take pictures with that hair in. So it's really, really interesting, that whole dynamic of avatars and the self. And I think in terms of how we're seeing it nowadays, with relation to Everskies, if you go on Pinterest and type in like dress up game outfits, a lot of the results will be Everskies, and they will be these like hyper specific, very sort of attuned to aesthetics versions of these avatars, right? And they're all created by different users. They all like they when you see them, you really get a sense that the creator has like poured a lot of their sense of like a lot of themselves into it. It's something that if you see it, it's much easier to understand, and I think also relate to, because people can then use their Everskies avatar as their profile picture for a lot of their social media. And I've touched on this before in another episode, but they can like use it for their Instagram like profile. They can use like it it just has such an interesting and extensive like lifetime value beyond just playing Everskies or beyond just playing that particular dress up game. Because once you finish creating the look, it's not as if you just save it and like maybe take a screenshot, save the picture, and then never see it again. You repurpose it and you recontextualize it in other elements of your life, because again, it's a reflection of your aspirations. It's a reflection of your aesthetics that you kind of like. It's a reflection of something that means something to you, right? So I think it's just really cool. And I think it's something that we see as well with, these like 2000s cartoons, like Total Drama, like Danny Phantom. There's a lot of their characters being used as profile pictures as well. And not just like the characters like straight up in terms of like you screenshot it, put some heart emojis and use it as a profile picture. Because that's one thing. That's like one kind of phenomenon in itself. But what I mean is like people even go a step further and use the art style of those shows to create their own avatars. So I know you guys have seen like the Total Drama versions of like celebrities, the Total Drama like avatars. They're based on this one girl from Total Drama, but they've changed like the hair, they've changed like her makeup, they've changed her outfit, and they've made it map onto whatever it is that they want to tell in terms of like their own story. So you can change her hair, her makeup, her outfit to suit maybe your aesthetic, or to suit, I don't know, just to create a character that doesn't even have to represent you, but just some narrative that you want to convey and that you want people to kind of get a sense of when they see your profile picture. So it's really interesting how that art style in itself and that one girl has become, in a sense, like an avatar sort of base, or like the mannequin almost in those dress up games, and people are really like tweaking it and just making it their own and using it to convey something about themselves. So that's really cool, and that's something that I really think BRAIDAR would benefit from tapping into, because again, as I said in the aesthetics episode, in the episode about like how to find your target audience and how to make sure your startup is like really speaking to your target audience, think about the context in which people are using these things, or the context in which this consumer trend has popped up. It's in the context of something that's very visual, something that's very fashion based, beauty based, something that's very like, literally Pinterest based. Like it's literally on Pinterest that you can find evidence of these things. And so once you look at like the context in which it's being used, you can then draw parallels between that context and your own offering, like your own startup. And if there's overlaps, like, oh, people get braid inspiration on Pinterest. My target audience is so regularly on Pinterest, like they're creating their literally like their dream life and their like holiday plans, their uni plans, their, birthday plans on Pinterest. And so there's an overlap of intention, of like location, of industry, like in terms of like beauty and fashion of the trend and your like startup idea. So once you see those like correlations, that's a sign that you should kind of look into um, exploring that in your offering if you want. So that's something that I'm really excited about. And also, in terms of the future of BRAIDAR, I really want to do things that speak to the St. Andrews and Dundee like black girl audience in whatever way or shape that might take. And I say that because one thing about a student focused startup, especially one that's like geographically hyper localized like BRAIDAR, because we're only focusing on Dundee and St. Andrews for now, like for this phase of the startup. For something that's so specific in location and audience, you have to look at the times and like the duration in which your audience will actually be available. So if you think about it, if someone comes in first year, you know, they're a black girl, they want to get braids done, they encounter BRAIDAR and they, you know, they love it, they use it, they are a member, they're really kind of keyed into that community that's around BRAIDAR, they attend like BRAIDAR sort of events and things. That person will likely, on average, only be in the vicinity of where BRAIDAR is focused, like for now, like average of 4 years, you know? So it's not like other sort of e-commerce D2C offerings where your customer could can still like access your service, you know, even if they move away from like their uni town to a city and they move from a city to somewhere else. It's kind of like, again, a lot of those are product based things. So again, it's like kind of not dependent on them being in the area as much as like a service based thing. But with something like student focused braiding, there's you have to take these things into account, right? So I think a lot of the ways in which BRAIDAR will evolve in the near future will be dependent on what this audience wants, because you've only got like the time you've got to spend with them, right, is restricted in a sense. So it's really important that what you're offering actually maps onto like who they are, who they want to be, what they actually want, like their aesthetics, you know, and these things, because of that turnover every 4 years, these things will change. So it's important to kind of sort of have your finger on the pulse of this and really be in dialogue with your audience, and not just in terms of like asking the same person or the same people like if their tastes have changed, or if they still like your offering or something like that. That's not quite what I mean. What I mean is like with every new group of students who fit into your target audience, like do make an effort to reach out to them, to get to know them, to find out like their own view of your product. Because with each new cohort, right, they're rediscovering what BRAIDAR is. And at the same time, they are realizing the pain point of, oh my gosh, there's no braiders in town that I know of, you know? Like when you get to town, like in Freshers Week or the first few weeks, that's a realization that a lot of black girls have. So this occurrence is like happening and recurring every year. So you really have to be like positioned there and be like available, attentive, welcoming, friendly for each cohort that goes through that like cycle. So that's something that BRAIDAR will really be in tune with, and in the coming months, you'll definitely see more about that. But I don't want to give away the surprise, but just keep an eye out for a bit of some things to do with that on our Facebook page and on our Instagram page. And oh yeah, another thing that I wanted to ask you guys. So this is not directly related to the vision of BRAIDAR, like in terms of the documents and the strategy, but it's a question that I had, and I didn't really know where to ask it, so I just thought I'd ask it here. In terms of student like content creators, student UGC sort of creators, student influencers, particularly with like a fashion and beauty focus, I actually wonder like, is there any, I don't know, group, platform, place, society that like allows people to get to know each other in that sense, like people who have that shared hobby or side hustle or even interest in starting that, because that's something that I think is quite interesting, and that's something that I feel like, again, similar to with braiders, right? I just get a feeling that it's not possible for this thing not to exist. It's not possible for this, like, for student UGC creators and student influencers in the fashion space and beauty space to not exist in this town. Like, there's just some things that, even though you've not seen evidence of it, like way before I started Braidar, like first year, I hadn't seen evidence of like braiders in this town, but I just thought like that, I just thought it's just not possible, even if it's just like a few, and even if there's just a few of these like influencers and creators in that space. I think like it's just a matter of visibility for people, and it's a matter of like platforming them and allowing them to like meet each other, and just like, I don't know, that collaborative strengthening of different people's like brands and what they're trying to do and their side hustle, and just, I don't know. That's something really cool. I think I might talk about that next week in the show, maybe. But anyway, if you guys know anyone, or even if you happen to be someone who's like a fashion or beauty UGC person or content creator, or yeah, I would be really interested to know what your experience has been like in St. Andrews, how you've developed that, and how you incorporate like uni themes or content into your content. So yeah, if anyone is in that or knows someone in that, I would love to like have a chat, maybe even get you on the show, like do a bit of an interview, cuz yeah, I think that's super cool. I think like I'm I know I'm already knee deep in one startup. I think that's such an untapped area. Yeah, but I digress. So, what was I talking about before that? Yeah, I think I was talking about the whole like customer lifetime value, customer sort of cycle of a student focused startup. So yeah, that's one thing that I think people should be attentive to if, like me, your thing is focused on uni students and in a particular location. And in terms of the future of Braidar, in terms of offerings, I really want us to expand to other beauty verticals. And by that, I mean like nails. For example, I know there's a lot of people who are really, really like creative and talented in terms of doing nails in St. Andrews and Dundee. I would love to incorporate them into like the Braidar like network. I would love to kind of platform their skills, and similarly to the braiders, connect them with students who want to get their nails done. And same thing with like other areas of beauty. But again, as I say with anything, always important to do your investigating first. Number one, not even to find out who the people are or like where they are if they'd be interested, but the actual number one thing is to ask your audience if that's what they really want, or to ask them like, oh, what's your, you know, you need to ask those questions about the pain points that they're feeling before you then go and find solutions. You don't find the solution and then find out, oh, are you interested? Like, it's just to save you time, money, effort. As I said in episode 3, map everything onto and start every sort of new, I guess, feature, new like venture with what does the customer want? So, yeah, I think that's something that I always try and remind myself too, because it's really easy to like, I guess, get super into the creative side of like making the website, or like the branding, or like the social media pages, or just talking to people and like connecting people and getting people like on board in terms of stylists and like technicians. So yeah, I think that's just something really, really key. So I suppose in the short term, it's really about getting people's like getting users on Braidar and just seeing how they interact with what's there. Like, as I said, this is an MVP version, and MVP is basically a minimum viable product, like the most straightforward way that you can communicate to your audience what it is that you do, and like the most straightforward way that you can offer them that service. So it may not have all the bells and whistles of your vision and the grand plan as of yet, but they can get a sense of like where it's going, and they can get a sense of like, who are you? What do you stand for? And can you actually deliver the core of the value that I actually want, which is like getting to do braids nearby while at uni, which Braidar achieves. So for the short term, we are going to be iterating on the website. We're going to be developing it more and more, making sure, like, as people are using it, we're taking on the suggestions and we're taking on the different, like, when people say, oh, if I could access it from the homepage, it would make it even more efficient or more, like, it may just make it easier for people to access, like, rebooking a stylist, for example. So then I'll go and tweak the website to include that. And so it's just something like little fixes or even bigger changes to like the layout, depending on what the audience wants. So that's something that will be coming up in the very near future. So, all in all, I'm really excited to be able to share that with you guys and to be able to really get like hit the ground running with BRAIDAR, something that's I've been working on since June or July of last year, and almost every day since October. So a lot has gone into it. A lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of input from my amazing like friends, and just the sort of I guess day one BRAIDAR supporters who've done like the demo testing with me and done the feedback interviews with me as well. So grateful to you guys, and I can't wait to see where we go from here. So, yeah, thank you guys once again for listening. As always, you've been an excellent audience, and I will see you again next week. Same day, same place, same time. And this has been Jade and Paru on BRAIDAR, the Business of Beauty. Bye for now.